watching Play Replay with Async. Today I want to talk about the Star Wars franchise and how great it once was and how it just basically has crumbled and fallen to pieces over the course of all these years. And basically since Disney bought it for the most part. So I'm just going to kind of go through like each movie and show and stuff and kind of I think it's all in order, but don't quote me on that. So I'm just going to kind of go through and give my thoughts and basically talk about the overall issues that Disney has brought to the table when it comes to Star Wars and how it's kind of declining and turning into a useless thing that they should just sell back to George Lucas at this point. So let's begin with the first movie, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. So that movie was a movie that I didn't really get too into. I went to see it when it came out, I remember, and it wasn't the greatest. The Jar Jar Binks, of course, everybody had an issue with him and everything, and he wasn't the best character to put in there. I realized they're trying to gear it toward kids a little more, I think, and that's great and everything, but they went a little too much toward kids at that point. And then of course they had Anakin as a kid, and it was basically really felt like a kid show almost, you know. Even the battles with Jar Jar Binks were kind of kid friendly, you know. He's just fumbling around. It's just, I don't know. Qui-Gon Jinn was a cool Jedi. Obi-Wan being young, that's fine and everything. It's just the stuff that they had with they just really, with the stuff with the pod race took too long, and the young Anakin Skywalker, you know, that stuff. I don't know. And Jar Jar Binks, of course. That's really my only issue with it. And of course it was owned by George Lucas at this time. And the franchise had not been around for a long time, or there wasn't anything new for a long time. So of course this movie made a lot of money just because of the long period between Return of the Jedi coming out and this movie. So yeah, but this is Episode 1, so it's a prequel to the classic films. So anyway, I'm sure a lot of people know that, but just in case you don't know that, it's just something I'm telling you. Hi guys, thanks for watching. I just wanted to ask you to please hit that subscribe button and like it and share it if you enjoy what I'm doing here. It helps out my channel greatly. And you can also find me on Instagram and Twitter. And I'm also on Rumble. So if you're looking for me, you can also find that information in the descriptions of most of my videos on YouTube. So thank you for watching. Then we move on to Attack of the Clones. Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. I have notes down here, so I'm not looking away from you. I'm just trying to focus on what I want to say, or what I want to talk about here. So Attack of the Clones the idea is cool and everything, but the movie was kind of just bogged down with the romantic relationship with Anakin and Padme or whatever. So it's kind of just not really, I don't know. It seemed like it took too much time in that. I understand they wanted to have a relationship there and they wanted to build that up and all that. And Anakin was kind of a bratty teenager, I guess, at that point. But there was some badass stuff that they had in there with like the clone, once it all started blowing up and you get to see the Death Star plans and, you know, this basically them being surrounded by whatever, all the Jedi come in there and all this stuff, and then being surrounded by those aliens, and everybody's all fighting and stuff. That was cool and everything, but the movie wasn't what I call great Star Wars at this point, and it's still pretty good though. Still wasn't considered like garbage to me, okay? And it didn't feel like that there was any kind of woke agendas, and everything was, you know, about right. There was lots of diversity in aliens and stuff. So I don't know why we have to have diversity in skin color so much when we have a diverse universe in Star Wars. So I don't know. It's just something that people like to push, and it's just something that is constantly being pushed by these woke activists. But so anyway, that was the Attack of the Clones, and that was episode 2. But then we move on to the Clone Wars. Now that became a cartoon and everything. I believe it came out later than after Revenge of the Sith, if I remember correctly. Maybe it didn't. Anyway, but the Clone Wars became a show. First, it was a cartoon on Cartoon Network. There was like a volume 1 and 2. That was the greatest Clone Wars as far as I'm concerned. That show, volume 1 and 2, looks so cool. It's just such a hero. Like, there's so many heroic things, like with the way these Jedis move and everything. The story I didn't mind. Everything about those shows was awesome. And it even kind of led you into what you would see in Revenge of the Sith. So I guess that did come out before. But anyway, and that was a cool show. But then later on, they came out with the Clone Wars, the CGI animated show. And that was kind of geared toward kids in the beginning, I think. And then they kind of grew up the audience, or the audience kind of grew up with it as it evolved into more of a serious adult kind of show, it seemed like. So, and then that's where you get Ahsoka from in that whole thing. And then that's when Dave Filoni came along and all that stuff. So that was great. Whatever, that's what it is. Later seasons of that, I think, got better. But anyway. But moving on to episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. That one is probably one of my top Star Wars movies. I love that movie. The whole beginning of Revenge of the Sith, in the very, 2 seconds when the whole thing starts, you hear this boom, 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 boom. And then all of a sudden you see their ships going right underneath like these giant starfighters, and you start seeing the planet, and you see all the war that's going on in space. And you see that it just goes right in, just how the camera action moves, how everything just moves along so quickly. And Obi-Wan and Anakin and their friendship, and you can kind of see how they've known each other for so long time. That movie is when everything was firing on all 4 cylinders. So you get to actually get a feeling like there's been a war and they've been fighting it for a while, and these guys have been together and all that stuff. And you get R2 and you get these little droids. You get them going right into a ship and going right into a battle, and then they're just trying to and then there's a temptation with the Sith stuff, and that should I kill him or not? And he says kill him or whatever, and then Anakin kills that guy with 2 lightsabers. It's just everything they started off with was really good, and then the movie kind of slows down a little bit. And then you get, the whole thing with Anakin and Obi-Wan, and there's kind of like still buddies, and everything just kind of escalates and turns and turns. And I think that movie it just feels like it was a little too rushed between, him turning to the dark side in that movie. And I could see why they have to have the Clone Wars series, or the CGI show, to kind of fill in the years that there was in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, so you can kind of have a feeling that these guys have been doing this for a while, and Anakin has been slowly being nudged toward the dark side by Palpatine. So you get that more in a long series instead of just a third movie, but it's what it is, and that's what George Lucas did with it. So whatever. I think the movie was good, though. It wasn't horrible. And so that was a good thing. And in fact, now that I look back on these movies, I think I like them a little more than I did when I first seen them even. Revenge of the Sith, though, is still up there pretty high for me. So then we move on to, I'm doing this in the order of the new Disney arrangement, so how they're filming stuff and doing this. So just bear that in mind. So Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus show. So the Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus show, of course, it takes place 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. So it's been a little while. And then you would assume that Obi-Wan is going to go and protect, young Luke Skywalker. But no, They had to twist it. Instead, he's going to leave young Luke Skywalker out in the out in the danger zone where he could be killed by anybody at any given time, and he's going to go protect young Princess Leia. What? And then Princess Leia, she's just this little girl that can literally run away from criminals and it's just dumb. I'm just sorry. That show, they did so many things wrong with that show. Reva, I don't care that she's black. A lot of people will say you're racist if you don't like Reva. No, I just don't like the character because she was not needed in the show at all. There was no reason to have Reva in the show other than social justice. That's why they cast her, and especially she was tokenized. They cast her as a black woman on purpose because they wanted to, push the agenda. Oh, we have to have people of color in the show. Okay. Well, there are people of color in the Star Wars universe, right? I don't think that Disney knows that. But I guess there wasn't enough of them, especially with all these blue aliens and brown aliens and all these different kinds of aliens. Oh, that doesn't count. Aliens don't count. Only people count. You can see that they really love the franchise. So, whatever. So anyway, but Reva was always mad and angry throughout the whole thing. And then, I'm going to spoil it, she gets some kind of redemption at the end of the series. I'm sorry, what? She literally wanted, I can't count, how many Jedi did she kill in the show? Because they always talk about how she wants to kill everybody. And then she's redeemed at the end. Oh, she just, she's just a mad woman because she was taken at an early age, and she was at the Jedi temple. And she was, it's like, really? So anyway, and then of course we get some stuff that kind of messes up the Obi-Wan Darth Vader canon as far as I'm concerned, and there's a couple fights and stuff, and Darth Vader apparently can't run through fire or use his force powers to get to Obi-Wan on the other side of a little bit of fire, so there is that. But whatever. And Obi-Wan, he seemed awfully weak in the show. He seemed like he just didn't have the Obi-Wan that we know abilities. I just don't know what happened there. So anyway, the Obi-Wan series, that was woke, and that's also where I started looking at this stuff and not caring anymore with Star Wars. The Obi-Wan series was the breaker, I think. Because I was a fan of Mandalorian season 1 and 2. But I think Obi-Wan is where I started to go, I'm done. I'm just done. They can't do these characters properly. They're not going to do these stories properly, so why even care? So I gave up after that, and that's when I stopped really caring about Star Wars. So anyway, I'm going to move on to Solo because he fits in there somewhere. I'm not sure where Solo is in the universe, and it was a movie that did very badly. I didn't think it was horrible when I saw it, but it wasn't the greatest either. And it just was what it is, I guess. I don't know. So Solo happened, and then that's about it. So I'm not going to cover that. Anyway, and then we move on to Andor, Disney Plus show. Remember when I said during the Obi-Wan show I gave up and I wasn't into Star Wars? Well, the Andor show, I can't speak, really reflects that, because I didn't watch it at all. I didn't even care. I didn't even try. I at that point I had canceled Disney Plus. I don't have it no more. I will not give Disney more money than they deserve. They don't deserve any money anymore as far as I'm concerned. So Andor did not get watched. So I'll admit, I never watched it. I never watched it. So yeah. But moving on to the next one, which is Rogue One. I did watch that. I actually didn't mind that movie when that came out. That was like the first Disney film, though, that they actually did. And it wasn't horrible. It wasn't the greatest, though. There was some kind of bad acting in that movie, too. But it wasn't horrible. I'll put it that way. And, of course, the Darth Vader scene at the end is kind of weird to me because he's moving a lot faster in that scene, like he's a really young Jedi. And you got to understand, this movie takes place right before Episode 4 A New Hope, where Obi-Wan is older and Darth Vader is older, and they're moving a lot slower in that movie. So this takes place like 5 minutes before the beginning of A New Hope. And yet he's marching through and just lifting these guys up and just using the Force and just wrecking everything. Just moving along pretty fast. And then 5 minutes later in the next movie, he's slow. I can't wrap my head around that. I just don't understand. They could not match it up with the original movies. So I don't know. But anyway, moving on from Rogue One. It was a good movie. I didn't mind that one. Moving on from Rogue One to A New Hope, like I just said, Episode 4. That's a good movie. That's classic. You know, I love the classics, so it's gonna be one I love. A New Hope and everything. I just love the whole movie because it's a classic. I grew up watching this, so of course I have nostalgia for it. It's a good movie. So I have really nothing bad to say about the movie. I love Han Solo. I love Leia. I love Luke Skywalker. I love the droids. Everybody in that thing. I love what's his face? I can't even think of his name. Chewbacca. Jesus. Anyway, so everybody in that whole thing is awesome. And of course, then we move on to Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, and that's when it gets even cooler because you get evil like winning, and it's basically like Darth Vader really doing well. And then of course you get to see Boba Fett as he was intended to be. You know, he keeps his helmet on and everything. He doesn't really stand out, and he kind of does his thing. He's not trying to show off. He's just kind of there in the background waiting to do his stuff, you know. And he's like a villain in this, you know. I'm sure he's a bounty hunter, so I'm sure he could do whatever, but he's kind of a villainous character when I watch this movie, and I don't understand. He basically is working for Darth Vader at this point. So yeah, I don't know. It's the way it is. And then of course you move on to Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. A lot of people when I was younger didn't like this movie, but I grew up with this movie, so I do like this movie. But a lot of people didn't like it because of the Ewoks, because I guess it was supposed to be Wookiees instead of Ewoks on this planet, which I think that would have actually been cool. But yeah, but the Ewoks, it kind of works though, because the Ewoks are kind of weaker, you know, and they need help. So it's kind of cool because Luke Skywalker and all those guys, the rebels, come down there and they basically help the Ewoks. If it was Chewbacca, if it was like Chewbacca and the Wookiees on this planet and type of thing, it'd be a little bit different because Wookiees will rip the arms off the stormtroopers. It's like they would. I mean, what? How are they going to be oppressed? Really, it seems if you got a lot of Wookiees, it seems like they're willing to just literally tear down the Empire. So I think it makes more sense with Ewoks, which is kind of what a lot of people probably might not like to hear, but I think for me, that's how it makes sense to me. So yeah, that's what I think. And of course, Luke wins the battle and all this stuff, and he gets tempted to the dark side, but he actually overcomes it, and his father turns good in the end, and you get to see Darth Vader. Of course, he dies, and then they burn the body and all that stuff like they do in all these deaths, it seems like, in Star Wars. Anyway, so then you get that. So now we move on to The Mandalorian Disney Plus show. And I believe this is in order after Return of the Jedi and all that stuff. So anyway, now you get this show, which is cool in the beginning. It's very slow in the beginning. I mean, how slow can he walk in the first season? He just like walks the slowest. And then of course we get introduced to Grogu, Baby Yoda, as so many people just call him. And it's cool for the first season. And then you get to the second season, and the second season, he gives him to Luke. Okay, we're good with Baby Yoda or Grogu or whatever. Okay, and then you get the Boba Fett show, or the Book of Boba Fett or whatever. Okay, that show is just basically Boba Fett getting his armor back and doing a couple things and trying to act like a boss or whatever, the mayor of this town, or I don't know. He's trying to be the controlling force instead of Jabba the Hutt, who's not there anymore. So, okay, he's not very tough. He's just completely different than how he was in uh, The Mandalorian season 2 when you first meet him. He's like rough and like kicks some butt, you know? And then of course you see him in this show and he's like, I'm the bounty hunter, you know, take your helmet off, take your helmet off, put it on, take your helmet off, put it, it's like, okay, what is it with helmets? I understand the actors want to show their faces, but in the early Star Wars, in the classics, a lot of helmets didn't fall off, a lot of helmets didn't come off, they were just on. You didn't see Darth Vader just going, oh, look, here's the actor. No. You didn't see the guy playing Chewbacca underneath the outfit. You didn't see him, you know, well, I understand he's playing a character, but it's like you didn't see all these stormtroopers taking off their helmets. You didn't see Boba Fett taking off his helmet in that show, in those movies. It's like everybody just kept their helmets on because that's just how it is, you know? So when Boba Fett's just taking off his helmet all the time in the Book of Boba Fett, it sucks for me. And then like Mandalorian or whatever his name is, he takes his helmet off like a couple times too in these shows, and like it's just helmets off. I just don't get it. They should be like Judge Dredd. Keep the helmet on, never take it off. That type of thing. The camera should not show them taking it off. Yes, you can allude to them taking it off at some point, but you really don't need to show that. You show him in the actual way that you just think of him as an action figure. This is what the action figure looks like. He doesn't have a helmet that comes off, okay? You can emote in other ways. There's other ways to show emotion and stuff. I guess it makes a little bit of sense when he takes it off for Grogu, but that's it. That's it. That's over. It's over with. That's it when Mandalorian does that. So anyway, and the Boba Fett show, of course, you get Mandalorian season 2.5 in the middle of that, which is very weird. And then, of course, Luke just sends Grogu right back to him. Not escorting him either. He sends him, I think, R2 and basically the ship. And here he is. Here's Grogu. Oh, he didn't want to get trained. He wants to be with you. Okay, here, take him, Mandalorian. And then just boom. Now Mandalorian's babysitter again. And then Mandalorian, he's basically got this, you know, this black lightsaber and all this stuff, the dark saber and all that. And it's just, you get all that in the middle of the Book of Boba Fett. This is a Boba Fett story. And for some reason, cut, and we're going to have the Mandalorian for 2 shows. And then we're going back to the whole thing with Boba Fett. And then there's going to be some not very good ending to the show, and it really doesn't feel like he's in charge really at the end. It seems like he doesn't really reach the people, I don't think, as a leader, as a strong leader. I don't know. It just doesn't work. And that's like what I was saying before. This is where I just started dropping off of Disney version of Star Wars. Disney Star Wars is burning at this point because they just can't do anything that's awesome. They just can't get back to what Star Wars really is. They can't get back to the heart of Star Wars. So, okay, so we're done with all that. Now that's the Disney Boba Fett and Mandalorian stuff. And now they're going to move toward Ahsoka. Ahsoka's going to get her own show, and of course we did get to see her a couple of times. You know, she was also in the Boba Fett episode with Mandalorian when you see Grogu and Luke Skywalker training and all that stuff. You've seen her in season 2 of Mandalorian. But yeah, I think the actress playing her is perfect for the part. I have no problems with her playing Ahsoka. She's perfect for the part. She looks great. She seems like a happier person. And I kind of like that as a character, being kind of a happier Jedi type of. Well, she's not really a Jedi, but have Ahsoka be able to smile. There's something to that we don't get a lot anymore with these characters. So that's great. But now she's going to have her own series, and I don't know how that's going to go, because it seems like Star Wars is kind of not doing so well. They can't get out a movie to save their life. I mean, they just can't. Star Wars has been just basically placed as a show on TV, and that's it. Star Wars used to be this great thing for movies. Everyone wanted to see a Star Wars movie back in the day. Now nobody cares about a Star Wars movie, and I'll get to why. Speaking of why, and we're going to go to episode 7 of The Force Awakens. This was basically felt like they're trying to rehash A New Hope in a lot of ways. And they're just doing it with a woman instead of Luke Skywalker kind of thing. Now, it wasn't exactly the same, but it had a lot of the same kind of beats to it. It's like they're trying to remind you, oh, hey, remember this? Remember this? This is the type of stuff that Star Wars used to be, you know? So, okay, you get that, and you get a new droid, BB-8, and all that stuff. And that's great. So then we go to episode 8, The Last Night, or it should be called the most divisive movie of all time. This movie, there's a lot of stuff that I did not like in this movie. It felt like an episode of something, just where it's like just one shot, you know, type of episode. And there's the fight sequence you see in the Red Room, whatever, with Snoke and all that stuff where he dies. That's cool. But a good chunk of this movie is just not the greatest. I don't know. I don't know what to think of this movie. It's just not my favorite movie. I'll put it that way. There's a lot of, there's just too much garbage going on. It's just too much running around and all this stuff while the Empire is just kind of moving along. Princess Leia, of course, gets killed and floats around in space and then comes back. It's just irritating to me. It just doesn't seem right. So that's not my favorite movie either. And then moving on to the only Star Wars movie I never actually bought. I usually would buy all these things, even if I didn't completely like it. I would just, it's Star Wars, you know, you want to have this on Blu-ray or whatever, or 4K or whatever you want to watch it on. You just want to have the set sitting there just because it's cool. Okay, so I dropped off after The Last Jedi, and I never bought The Rise of Skywalker, episode 9. It's just, okay, you're going to bring back the Emperor. So you're going to have Palpatine in basically this old, decrepit, he's basically being kept alive by his evilness. I don't know. It's just, it's so irritating. And then they redeem Kylo Ren. So, of course, you're going to have a redemption story with that. And that's not horrible, I guess, but it's still kind of irritating because, you know, Kylo Ren was kind of whiny and complaining throughout this whole series. He would have his helmet on and take it off just constantly. And I just keep thinking, if that was Darth Vader, how much helmet time would they have him off with his helmet? None. Now, I understand he's got all this, you know, breathing and stuff, but okay. But he looks up to Darth Vader, right? So wouldn't he just leave his helmet on all the time, no matter what? No, he's always whipping that thing off. I don't even know. At one point, I'm surprised he just didn't take off his helmet and throw it at Luke Skywalker, because it's just so useless. The helmet was a pointless thing. And then the Knights of Ren, who are they? Because I think we've seen like a glimpse of them, and then they're just done. And whatever happened to them, no one knows. Great story plot that could have been there, but no, we don't know nothing about that. And then, of course, Luke just kind of fading away. This stuff is just irritating me. So this is what killed Star Wars. And at this point now after I've gone through all of this, Star Wars is basically dead. I don't know what they're going to do with it. Can they actually put out a trilogy again? A new trilogy? And you bet, if they're going to do a trilogy, you watch. They're going to bring Rey back. Because that's their bread and butter, they think. They think, well, this is our character. We made this one. Well, I hate to say it, but the Mandalorian series right now, there's no hype for this season 3. Okay, there's no hype for this thing. You used to see all these people spoiling each episode online every day. That's how I know that there's no hype. I haven't seen any spoilers or anything, people going crazy over the show. I've seen one clip of Yoda, or Baby Yoda, Grogu or whatever, flipping through the air like a puppet, and it just looks horrible. Like, the special effects just look horrible. That's it. And I've heard people talking about the show, and nobody's really into it. I'm sure some people are, so of course if I say that nobody's really into it, I'm sure I'm going to get comments saying, oh God, I'm really into it. Well, okay, that's fine. But overall, it's just losing them money. Disney is losing money. They're bleeding money, billions of dollars at this point. Every movie that they put out, and I'm not just talking about Star Wars now, every movie that they're putting out, everything, they're just losing money. And, well, most of the movies they're putting out now are just remakes of old Disney stories, only they just take the white main character and turn them into a black character, which is kind of weird. I don't get it. They like to put black characters in the place of white characters. And if you're a white redheaded chick and you in your cartoon, well, you're going to be a black girl for sure now. That's the way they're doing it. They're just flipping. Every redheaded chick is going to be a black girl. That's the way they're doing it in these new movies of Disney. I don't understand why, but it's just social justice. That's the woke thing again, because they have to promote, they have to change. They can't create a new movie with a new black character. Wouldn't that be awesome? I think black people will respect Disney a little more if they create a new movie that did billions of dollars with a new lead black character. Wouldn't that be great? No. No, they're not going to do that. No, they're going to turn Ariel or whatever, the Little Mermaid black. Okay, but have you looked at the dislikes on that recently? It's basically just more hate of that. And I know everybody's racist. That's what they'll say. They'll say everyone is racist. What are we going to do? Everybody in the whole nation just turned racist. No, they're tired of it. We're seeing it over and over, Disney. How many times can you repeat the same routine? You can't create nothing new. You're just going to take something old and put a black character in front and just recycle it and basically tokenize that character and say, see, we got a black character and they're the main person, and you're racist if you don't like it. See, this is where things are going. Disney is blowing all of their money on this stuff. They got the Marvels coming up. That movie is going to lose them so much money. There's no way that movie is going to make money. And then they've already lost so much money on Quantum Mania. That lost money. Wakanda Forever. That still didn't make enough money, because you know why? Because the main character is not in the movie no more. Because they wouldn't recast the Black Panther. I mean, they're losing money. Thor: Love and Thunder. That movie, that was horrible. That was even Chris Hemsworth didn't like that movie. He talked about they need to change the role after this because it's not taking him seriously. So I'm just telling you, man, Disney is crashing and burning, and Star Wars is going to burn up with it, because Star Wars is not doing well. I mean, they are not going to be able to do a movie anytime soon. And since they've bought Star Wars, they've just had the 3 films mainly, and everything else has just kind of just been mediocre at best. And the 3 films, after people watch them, they're not a big fan after that. So I'm sure some people like them, but there's not a lot of love going on for Star Wars under Disney's rule. So anyway, that's pretty much everything I want to talk about on this video. It's kind of a long one, but it's just something I wanted to cover because I love Star Wars. Growing up, it was one of my favorite things to see. And even into the prequels, I loved the idea of being able to go see a new Star Wars movie. But once Disney got a hold of it, it's burning up now. It's in fire, and it's just dropping. They're losing billions on these things, on all their movies and stuff, all put together. They're losing billions. So we'll see where that goes, but let's hope that Disney will sell their property, their Star Wars property, back to George Lucas so he can maybe fix it. I don't know. They'll have to reboot the whole thing or something. I don't know. Well, leave a comment in the comment section below and tell me what you think about the whole Disney, Star Wars, and all that stuff, and maybe Disney losing money and all that. Whatever. Just basically tell me what you think about the whole Disney woke agenda, I guess. And let me know what you think in the comment section below. But And like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for watching.